I was just back there listening to Chuck. He was saying, it's amazing that he's not going to be talking about national security. I would not have the networks breaking in if I was talking about that, Chuck, and you know it. As many of you have been briefed, we provided additional information today about the site of my birth. Now, this issue has been going on for two and a half years now. I think it started during the campaign. And I have to say that over the last 2.5 years, I have watched with bemusement. I've been puzzled at the degree to which this thing just kept on going. We've had every official in Hawaii, Democrat and Republican, every news outlet that has investigated this, confirm that, yes, in fact, I was born in Hawaii, August 4th, 1961, in Kapiolani Hospital.
So there you have it. The whole video's up on Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, everywhere else. All I know is for 2+ years, all they gave us was this receipt of it, and they claimed this was a birth certificate and that we were conspiracy theorists. Now they release this, and one of the original researchers into this, Phil J. Berg, joins us, syndicated radio host Eric Mancow Muller, also joins us, Webster Tarpley, coming up in about 10 minutes. And Mr. Berg is getting more intel in from his forensic team that's looking at this. Right before the break, Mr. Berg, and I want to get Mancow's take on this in a moment, you came out and said that the preliminary points are coming out and that you're now questioning the provenance of this birth certificate. You're saying this could be a phony.
Well, it could be, but, you know, even if it, let's assume for a minute it's not a phony. The issue then is he's adopted in Indonesia, and that changes his status. He would no longer be natural born. He would be naturalized, and naturalized, you cannot be president of the United States. You know, when you heard Obama, he made like a big joke about this. I've been watching this for 2.5 years. Yeah, but you also spent like $2 million fighting all our lawsuits. Why didn't you release this information? Why didn't you grant discovery in any of these cases? Because if you granted discovery, we could have gotten this birth certificate, but also we could have gotten your adoption records and all your other records. When he went to school in California, Occidental, people called him Barry. His legal name, I believe, is Barry Sotoro. If he hasn't legally changed it, every time he uses Barack Hussein Obama, that's fraud.
All right, stop right there, Phil, because I want to go back to Mancow and get his take, and then I'll continue with you after Mancow goes. But that's a good point that Phil has. Why did they spend $2 million fighting Phil Berg's lawsuits and millions fighting other lawsuits? Why didn't he just release this, Mancow?
Well, and why didn't they just give it to Hillary? I think this is a false flag kind of situation. I don't know if it's a forgery. And look, Alex, you're not going to be able to understand what I'm talking about sitting in Austin, Texas. You and Kinky Friedman are the only, and a couple of singers, the only people that I know in Austin. Let me say this. I live in the inner city. When I was a baby, my mother had to clutch me at her chest, and my brothers, they had to hide because of the groups that were going. We lived in Memphis when MLK was shot, when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. I was in the riots, and you can see me all over the CNN footage when Rodney King was beaten, and it was terrifying. And you're going to come out and tell America that their first black president isn't eligible, and I live in the inner city with 2 children? My God, our cities will burn. I think they're all too afraid to admit what this guy is. And I also want to say, I found it sickening. Did you listen to all the media people, all the reporters, so-called reporters, as he says, news outlets? And let me finish on this, Alex, before you cut me off. I love the president sitting there laughing with all these reporters. Did you hear him chuckling? You just played it. And I'd like to throttle Chuck Todd, Chucky Todd, and the rest of them. Let's think about this. They push through. We can't have light bulbs. We have to have these new toxic curly Q light bulbs made by GE. GE makes $14 billion and gives a lot of money to the dummy craps and Obama. They own NBC. We have no news. They pay no taxes on $14 billion, General Electric. We all have to get their new curly Q light bulbs, and then Chucky Todd and Brian Williams and all of them sit there and chuckle. We don't get the real news. It's so confusing.
Well, Mancow, in your gut,
in Libya, I mean, what's happening? There is a dark undercurrent going on. There is something sinister happening. And, what is it about this guy? And look, Donald Trump, they're setting him up to be a candidate. I think Obama, so that makes me nervous. I think Obama wants to run against Trump. But Trump has brought up some interesting things. Alex, I guarantee people would know you from Austin, Texas Elementary. They'd know me. Why doesn't anybody remember this guy as a kid? What is his history?
Well, Mancow, let me shift gears back.
Who is this man we elected?
Let me shift gears back because I interrupted you trying to get in there. You are now starting to look at the fact that Sky Television headline, Al-Qaeda operative that killed troops worked for British intelligence. They now admit that the head of the 7/7 bombings in London was British intelligence. Anwar al-Awlaki hiding out at the Pentagon, Fox News, and now Al-Qaeda being the core of the Libyan rebels. I'm glad that you're starting to turn the corner on that.
Alex, here's what I know, and it's the foundation of everything, and you know it, and you've used it to great success. And let's tell the people this is all they need to know when they watch the news or go to school or talk to their wife or talk to their boss or talk to whoever. It's a 4-letter F word, and it's fear. And people in power have always used it. If you don't do what we say, you're going to go to hell. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to take your apartment and raise your kids with another man. If you don't do what I say, we're going to audit you. And this government uses fear. They use a boogeyman. Right now, they're using the boogeyman of Al-Qaeda. And do I think there are radical Muslims? Of course, yeah. I visited the Middle East. Boy, are they primitive kooks. But they keep stoking the fires. They keep creating this fear. My God, we may be going into our fourth war in Syria. And we've lost thousands of our young men and women, and we haven't gotten a drop of oil. It's insanity. It's madness. Now we're giving body armor and training to Al-Qaeda in Libya. Yeah, Al-Qaeda, the same people that bombed us on 9/11. We let 500 hardcore terrorists go. Don't tell me America didn't know about that. We let 500 of them go. We've let how many of them go from Guantanamo on purpose? Yeah, I think we have to create an enemy. We have to have fear, because when people are afraid, they give up their rights. They give up their freedoms. Look at the way we're allowing our children to be molested at the airports by these TSA thugs. We're allowing our bodies to be filled with radiation because we're afraid. We're afraid. Not me. I don't have fear. You can rewire your brain, folks. Don't buy into their fear. Don't buy into their propaganda.
Sure, but going back, Mancow, I like your little backhanded comment because I was ranting at you today, and that's cute, that I've used fear to great effect. I have, brother, you didn't hear what I said. I'm saying that you're telling people about the fear. I'm not talking about you. No, but going back, I want to say something. I do use fear because when I'm afraid of something, when I'm concerned about taxes going up or open borders or stage terror, I come and tell people. So I'm saying when you're at the edge of a cliff and you're hanging out over it, fear is a good thing when it's proper. I'm saying they orchestrate fear to manipulate people, and we need to understand that most of the things they try to make us scared of, like terrorism, aren't really that dangerous per capita because you have more people dying from a honeybee sting every year than you do from terrorism. But in closing, Mancow, give us your website and also any final questions for Phil Berg.
Alex, listen. Look, they use fear to manipulate us. If they wanted to beat these radical Muslims, guess what we would do? We would send our soldiers over there and we would kill them. End of story. We're not allowing our soldiers to kill them. When we catch them, we're letting them go. They want this fear, and when America is afraid, we give up our freedoms and we allow this kind of tyranny. And my only question for Phil Berg is he secretly working for Hillary Clinton? My website is mancow.com. I'm going to be listening, Alex. You have a great show. Thank you.
All right, you too. Well, that was a curveball from Eric Mancow Muller. Phil Berg, your view on that question?
Well, first off, I'm not working secretly for Hillary Clinton. I did support her during the election, but very minor. I mean, I think I gave her $200 or $300, nowhere near the limit that you could give of in the thousands of dollars or $35,000, whatever the number is. I didn't even have a lawn sign on my house for her. I did this because I'm a lifelong Democrat, and people say, how can you attack the Democratic Party? I did this because there's nothing more important than our U.S. Constitution. And that's what I'm fighting for. And Obama has walked all over the Constitution. If you think about it, Arnold Schwarzenegger, people have talked to for 10, 15 years about running for president, And what's he say? He says, I was born in Austria, amend the Constitution. Obama hasn't said anything. And for him to come out laughing and joking today on this issue, it's ridiculous. It's not a joking issue. But more significant is his status, and again, it's from his book. It's his status of being adopted in Indonesia. And I'm going to pursue my efforts here. I could use money if people want to make a contribution. We've been the only one, I believe, in the last 2.5 years focused on the adoption issue. Some people are saying, well, I've gotten calls today, they say, well, it shows his father's British, therefore he can't be natural born. I don't buy that argument. I buy the argument that you deal with the facts at the time.
Doesn't your mother just have to be natural born? And then, and of course, the laws have since changed, but at that time in the 60s, you had to be born in the country, though, even if one of your parents was an American, or they had to be a certain age. What were the specifics?
The specifics were husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, even today, traveling around anywhere around the world. If both are U.S. citizens, the child born, when it comes back to immigration, that child is considered natural born. The problem you get into is if only one parent is a U.S. citizen. And we raised that point that if she was born in Kenya, and I still have the recording from her step-grandmother, who said she was in the hospital when he was born there, August 4th, 1961. If only one parent is a U.S. citizen, then you take the U.S. citizen, and that person had to live in this country for 10 straight years, and 5 of those years had to be after the age of 14. 14 and 5 was 19. She was only 18. So if he was born in Kenya, which I still believe he was, then the mother could not convey natural-born status. And some people say, Phil or Mr. Berg, you're playing on technicality. I said, I'm not playing on technicality. Congress established that rule. I think the rule today is if you're 15 plus 2 years. But Congress establishes that for natural-born status. So there's some real questions here. I guess the first thing we have to look at is the hospital, the doctor, see if the doctor was on staff, see what they did. But it was interesting, and Maya Satora, his half-sister last week, when she was interviewed, Pierce Morgan blew it because he said he didn't answer the question, how come in 2 different interviews you said your brother was born in 2 different locations? So we have to take a look at this document. Again, I don't care what this document really is. If ultimately it's valid, he loses his status when he's adopted in Indonesia.
But you've got a big research network out there. Since we've been on the air together the last 40 minutes, you've pointed out that it says race of father African. At the time, they would say they would use other terms. I believe you're correct there, and we've also blown it up. There's white around all the words, both the signed written text and the typewriter printing. This is very bizarre, and this is a riddle wrapped in an enigma. I want to bring Webster Griffin Tarpley in, who you know well, doctorate of history, researcher, economist, who's also been looking at this very closely, Genesis host, who every Saturday has you do an update. Webster, what's your preliminary view on what's happening here?
Well, first of all, this shows that agitation can lead to results, and people who think that the federal government is beyond their reach should now think again. Obama did not want to reveal this, and now he's been forced to reveal whatever he has revealed. I think the first step is, as Phil has been suggesting, we need to see a detailed analysis of this, forgeries. Is it fabricated? Is it real? What's with the name of the doctor? What if these people are still alive, can they provide some enlightenment? As Phil also points out, the really big question is the naturalization of Barack Hussein Obama, if that really is his name, in Indonesia as Barry Sotoro, the son of Lolo Sotero, who was the guy that his mother married, and therefore he is, by all accounts, became at that point a naturalized citizen of Indonesia. I would also extend a broader standard. If you want to be president, it means that you want to get your hand on the thermonuclear button. That gives you life or death power over virtually everybody in the United States and many people in the world. At that point, there is no private sphere. We want to see everything. We want to see his records from the prep school, Punahou, in Hawaii. We want to see the Occidental College records. We want to see the Columbia University records. We have this guy, Wayne Root, who says that he was in that year at Columbia. He's asked all the alumni. Nobody ever heard of Obama in that graduating class. We want to see the Harvard story. We want to see his tax returns. We want to see his records at this Business International Corporation, which is a notorious CIA front as long as it existed. We want to see his State Department file regarding the visas and trips that he took. For example, did he go to Pakistan early on with a couple of schoolmates? And
by the way, Webster, you're going to be in studio for an hour and a half Friday with us here in town, breaking this down as we work on a documentary film together. But my big issue here is, folks, they've been covering up his whole record like never before with anybody else in American politics. They wouldn't release this. They said that the receipt of a certificate was the certificate, played dumb about it. Now they've released a supposed long form. Does anybody in their right mind think that if he was really born in Kenya, that they wouldn't produce a fake birth certificate now because 62% of the American people don't believe he was born here in the USA Today poll that came out yesterday? Does anyone think, when the government's been caught forging documents, making fake newscasts, that they are not capable of this? Webster Tarpley, then we'll get Phil Berg's take on that.
They've been lying the whole time. And the interesting thing is, now you see what a real birth certificate might look like if this is authentic. That's a big if. You see that it's typewritten. It has signatures on there in pen and ink. It's got a whole series of about 20 to 25 categories of information.
Where are the feet? Where are the feet?
That's what we were demanding the whole time. Yes, there's that too. Some states have it. I guess some states don't. The authenticity of that document now has to be established by experts in...
By the way, notice it's not a scan, so experts could do that properly. It's a photo. You can see it curving. It's a photo. That's even more suspicious.
All right. All of those things have to come out in the wash. But again, the further dimension, what's with Indonesia? And again, the standard has to be, you want your finger on the thermonuclear button, great. We get to know everything. And this applies to everybody. It applies to Obama, anybody running for president, anybody and everybody running for president.
Well, we know to join the FBI, you've got to give them the long-form birth certificate. Let's get final comments from Phil Berg, Webster Tarpley, then your phone calls coming up. Do you